right, guys. We want to thank everybody for watching, everybody for listening. We are back with another wonderful episode of thoughtful discussion with Josh Schneider, as well as yours truly, Corey Ochai. And we have a special guest here today. But before we get into that, we also want to say, this podcast is for you guys that are listening, you guys that are watching, to obtain value off of the stories of entrepreneurs, those that are going for their dreams, going for their goals, and hopefully you can take some of this information with you to go forward. All right? All right. So, hey, what's going on, Josh? How you doing?
Never better. It's been busy in the best way. We've been able to travel a little bit, and the print shop, PGHprintship.com. Check us out. Print shop is going off the hook, busier than we've ever been, and can't get enough of it. So keep the orders coming in. And we're here with...
Hi, my name is Michael Roth. I'm a children's picture book author. My debut book is called River's New Friend. I just came out last month, and so I've been focusing on taking that to market and learning a lot through the process of self-publishing a book. So it's kind of been what's all-encompassing at the moment.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I'm a big reader, man, and I was always wondering about the process, right? From thought to finished product.
Yeah.
That's a big process. Most people don't understand. It's not just, writing the book, making sure the illustrations are there. There's so much more that goes into it. You know what I mean? So it's really an honor to have you on here today, and we can kind of go through your journey.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know that it was very well thought out because you asked me out for coffee, and we were going over a bunch of different books and different paper types, and then you went from there to one of my paper suppliers and got a bunch of samples and stuff like that, so I could see kind of what direction you went with, and it was great to have someone that wanted to glean from my experience of different types of paper and what getting an understanding of what they are and how they're used and all of that. I can nerd out about paper all day, and there's not that many people able to appreciate it. And you're like, "Oh, tell me all the things." So it was a nice little break.
I remember I brought you like 10 different books, and I'm like, "What kind of paper did they use?"
Yes, right.
Oh, that's interesting,
awesome.
man.
Oh, yeah.
Most people don't go that far, So
right.
I mean, you really.
So if that was one level that I saw, I mean, I can't imagine all the other levels.
Yeah, from idea to finished product was about 3 years.
Okay.
And there's definitely people that can make a book a lot faster. People can make a book in 3 months if you want. But I really wanted to do this story justice, and so I put a lot of thought into writing it. Did multiple drafts, and every time I did a draft, there wasn't something quite right with it.
Right.
I kept going back and going back. I really wanted it to be as good as I could possibly make it. And then same with the illustrations. I wanted to get a good illustrator on board that would help bring this vision I had in my head to life. And so a lot of revisions there. And then, in the production side of things, consulted with people like Josh, just people that knew about how to make it feel like a good, solid product. Because you want your brand to be quality. You want people to associate you with a good end product.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, definitely know why you got him on today. Definitely, I love the way you thinking, man. So let's start from let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the thought.
Yeah.
So what was it that inspired you? What was were you always an author?
Yeah, so I have a very atypical author journey. A lot of times people say, I dreamed of being a writer. I've been writing stories my whole life.
Right.
That was not me.
That wasn't you?
That was not me.
You sure?
No. Yes, from the age of 18, once I graduated high school, there was no creative writing until I turned 34.
Okay.
So that was a huge gap where I didn't give any thought to it. It wasn't in my mind. It wasn't a dream I had. And then had this weird experience where I was watching a TV show that I was a big fan of. And
what TV show was it?
It was Game of Thrones.
Okay.
I was a big fan of Game of Thrones. But the ending of it, I didn't feel like quite did the rest of the show justice. I felt like the ending didn't deliver on a lot of the things I had hoped for. And so in my mind, I started rewriting things. Like, what if they had done this? Oh, this would have paid off that. This would have been a cool ending. And I started having fun playing in this playground of story that someone else had built. And it was fun tweaking things and seeing how that changed the story. And I realized, this is a lot of fun. It didn't feel dry and this painful thing that creative writing in high school had felt like. This felt like I was kind of engineering a story and have these pieces of a puzzle that you kind of fit together. And so that's where I kind of started
figuring. Right here.
Yeah, I kind of figured out that's where I like this idea of writing. But I didn't really know how to write because I hadn't done it. You know, there's an amount of practice words you have to kind of get out of your system. You're not automatically good at things.
Oh, absolutely. It's a process, you know.
Yeah.
It's a process.
And also, I didn't like that I was playing in someone else's playground. It was a good learning space, but I also felt like it was kind of a negative space to be in because I'm tearing down someone else's work to rebuild it in my way.
Right.
And I think there's value in that space. Like I said, that's how I learned some of these processes of how to craft narrative.
Yeah.
But I wanted to then take that energy that I was spending rewriting someone else's story and start writing my own.
Okay. So let's take it back just one moment.
Yeah.
You know, while you were in high school, there was no inkling of, there was no like drop of, you know what, I may want to do this. So were you even good at writing in high school? What was your grades like back then?
You know, I was kind of a
Okay, so enough said.
I was a type A student, so I got good grades in all my classes, but
Right.
some I had to work a lot harder in. And
Okay.
writing was one of those ones I really had to work hard in. And creative writing was one of my worst classes. And I once had an English teacher tell me that I would never go anywhere in life if I didn't learn to apply myself.
Let's
Yeah.
look at the
So,
camera and
yeah.
say hi to the English teacher.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing? Look at us now.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you know, I think that's important for some people that are watching, some people
Yeah.
that are listening to hear that. You know, because maybe they have a negative experience with, you know, maybe one of these processes or one of these subjects, not knowing, and it may have deflected them for years or even right now. Like, you know, maybe that's not my thing. But, you know, give it a shot. You never know where this world can take you, man.
Absolutely.
So it's real interesting.
I never would have thought that I'd become a writer. That was never on my horizon. And the kind of lesson I would tell people is you don't know what your passions are going to be.
Right.
And keep an open mind because the thing that you don't see coming could end
Right.
up being a really fun journey to go down if
Absolutely.
you're open to it.
Absolutely. And yeah. So, hey, Josh, you had some things for it.
Yeah. So when you were talking about, you know, kind of using someone else's art as a tool to kind of get yourself engaged, warm yourself up, you know, kind of grease the wheels a little bit. I think that I that's something that I see, and Corey can elaborate on this too. But as you know, when you're any type of art, whether it's musically, if it's, you know, visual art, if it's, you know, whatever it might be, I think that the first step is almost always making something off of someone else's thing.
Sure.
Even as a photographer, I'm like, okay, I know I like this, and this. How can I try to replicate that? And then once you do that and you start to feel comfortable in it, that's the second phase where you start to develop your own style, your own, you know, whatever that is that kind of makes it yours. You do it enough times, and you're like, oh well, now I finally notice that I do this, and this differently than what I was practicing before, and now that's what makes my thing. I use these bright colors, or I like to have this kind of sound, or I like to, you know, whatever that is. So, Corey, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that right there is actually what I'm going through right now. You
Yeah.
know, because I'm learning editing. So
Yeah,
right
yeah,
before you guys got in here
Yeah,
today, I was actually researching one of the top editors in YouTube. Because YouTube, like editing for YouTube and editing for a motion picture are two different things, right?
Of course.
It's two different retentions and just a lot of different information, a lot of different there's a different approach to it. So I'm researching right now. I forgot the guy's name, but he's Logan Paul's. He's Logan Paul's editor. He's like his main editor. So a lot of him and Mr. Beast. So a lot of their videos have 75% retention. I need to understand how are they approaching it because it'll help me approach this better. So
Right.
even when
I
we
love
did the
that.
intro, it was like,
Yep.
you know, I wanted to make sure that we not just clipped in, you know, your name and the intro to the show, but also for people to have an understanding of what the podcast is about.
Right.
Before they get into it, you know. So
Right.
just those little things, like
Yeah.
doing that research, just helps you just sharpen the sword. So I love that, man.
So
I love that.
So for you, it's like figure out how to replicate that and try to get as close to that as you can, and then build on that with your own style. Once you start to kind of gain that perspective.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it,
Yeah.
but you're definitely right. That's kind of the natural progression of
Yeah,
art. Like
right.
I play guitar, and
Yeah.
definitely the first thing you start with is
Yeah.
you know, Wonderwall, or whatever, right? Like whatever that go-to song is that you got,
Right.
and then Stairway to Heaven. You start to work your way up to. Now I can play all the songs I wanted to play. I'm ready to start writing my own songs.
Right.
Now that I have an idea of what my feel is, my style, what I'm
Right.
going for.
Yeah.
Now I can
you
make
play
my own
something
art.
wrong and you hit
Yeah.
a different note and you're like, wait, that
I
sounded
like that.
kind of
I like
nice.
that.
Like, what
Yeah.
if I do this here?
I always say it's like you make noise and then you learn how to make music, right?
Yeah.
You
Right.
just have to know how to make the noise first, and you hit those, just know what the keys are, and then you can figure out the way to make a whatever you want it to do. I love that, man. So in this process, when did it become when did you identify what type of story that you wanted to tell? Like, how did that work out?
Yeah, so I started off after I kind of came out of my writing basically Game of Thrones fan fiction. I kind of started writing
I love that.
writing my own. It was a fantasy novel I was kind of working on, but it ended up being kind of too ambitious of a project for the start because you gotta
Been there.
Yeah, you gotta learn. You gotta
Yeah.
learn.
Right.
It's like trying to run before you crawl. So I took a lot of classes. I took a lot of online writing workshops. I started kind of really embedding myself in that thought process of not just what am I writing, but like why and how does this story work? Because you kind of have to understand that it's almost like a puzzle with pieces that fit together, and when it all clicks into place, it's a really satisfying story. But if any piece is off, that's when people will watch your show or read your book and go like, I didn't feel like the ending quite worked.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of need all the pieces in place. But to get to that, you have to develop that feel, both by writing and getting a lot of just practice words, but also reading a lot. You got to read. You got to surround yourself with other people doing art. I'm sure it's similar in visual art.
Absolutely.
You got to surround yourself by artists doing what you want to do, and that gives you a sense of what it's supposed to look like, and you can kind of learn the process by immersing yourself in that world.
Absolutely. Just once again, I mean, there's a common thing that we say on here. It was a master class I watched with Malcolm Gladwell, and he said, to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. You know that those two go hand in hand. And I was just watching a documentary with Conor McGregor, who also, well, not a documentary. He's actually right now being a coach on one of the Contender episodes, and the reason he loves to do that before he goes into a fight, because what it does is it makes him immerse himself back into the fighting world. I really like the fact that you went to the community first to not just go and approach it, but actually, we say ask the bird how. You don't ask the bird how to swim, you ask the fish. So this was you going fishing with the fish. You know what I mean? So it was really cool. I always say when you want to do something, tap into the community that does that, and you'll have better understanding of how to approach it. That's really cool that you did that. So where did that go?
So in that process, I'm throwing myself in this world, and as that process, I'm trying different genres. I write a little science fiction, write a little fantasy, kind of figure out your music style. What is it you like?
Right.
And I found I actually had a strong passion for picture books because there's all these extra interesting constraints on it. Like I said, I kind of view it as a puzzle with pieces, but picture books, you only have so many pages. Most people don't know this, but picture books are pretty much entirely always going to be 32 pages.
Just 32.
Has to do with how they bind it all together. And all books are basically going to be 32 pages. So you got 32 pages to work with. Okay. And you've got the page turns. How the page turns is part of the story. You want a little bit of a cliffhanger so that then you get the answer on the next page. Like, are they going to be friends? Turn the page and find out. And then that's kind of how you set it up.
I've never thought of that. So no wonder why you and Josh had that conversation as well. But I've never thought of that. Just the way the page turns. Everything matters.
Yeah. You've got about 500 words to play with. That's about how many words you got in a picture book. And so to me, as I'm kind of viewing this as like an engineering problem, you might not be surprised. I was in engineering college.
I can tell. I can tell you got a little bit of that in you, but just the way your thinking goes, it's beautiful. Actually, I love it.
So to me, I liked the constraints because to me, a lot of creativity comes from constraint. Having only 500 words and 32 pages and having to tell a story in that framework, to me, helps me be creative because I like fitting things into that form, into that puzzle. And so, having it be a fantasy novel was almost too much freedom. Having it be 32 pages, 500 pages, I really liked that, and it helped me be creative.
Absolutely. Josh, you had something for that?
Yeah. So I wanted to ask if all of this started, was it related to COVID at all? Like where you were like, I got time right now? And then also, what is your day-to-day career and all that kind of allowed you to lead into this?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily COVID related, other than coming out of COVID, I had more time to spend on it. But 2019 is when I started writing. So I'd been
Okay.
writing for about a year.
Got you.
But then when COVID happened, I had been self-employed. I'd run a business, an engineering firm where we did analytics. People would give us data. We used kind of AI technology to give them recommendations on their business. So
Okay.
I did that. And then in 2020, I felt like I needed a change. I'd been working with my father. The two of us kind of co-owned this business.
Gotcha.
He was looking to retire, and it just felt like now is the time. Now is the time to try something different. And so coming out of 2020, actually, I sold the business, retired, and just focused on this.
Amazing.
And so, to have gone, again, the story was 18 to 34, no writing. 34 to 35, I discover I like writing. 35, I sell everything to become a professional writer. So I kind of went all in on this
Yeah,
thing.
your
That
story,
doesn't
your
happen.
story, your
Yeah.
story sounds similar to mine. My
Yeah.
friend.
It does, yeah.
I took the jump in 2021. I called it jumping off the porch.
Yeah.
I put everything away. I was like, you know what? I'm done working for people. I'd rather work with people. But it's time for me to go on my own. And I hopped off the porch and just, start to free fall. And hopefully I was able to, find the string to pull so I can, actually break my fall, but just kind of coast, man.
Yeah.
But I think that was important. It was the scariest thing I ever did. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When you made that jump from running a business with you and your father to saying, all right, let's sell everything. I have an idea. I want to write a book, and I want to put everything I have into it. That takes more than guts. It takes more than courage. You know what I mean? That takes everything that you got. So what was it like going through that time? What was that decision like? You were also an engineer, so you are an engineer. So, what was the decision making? How did you not become so rational?
Yeah, I think it was, well, for one thing, I'm very blessed. My spouse has a well-paying job. And she actually came to me and said, she had just finished her job training. It was a long 10-year process. She was a doctor. And so to get through that process, it's a long time. It's 10 years of training. And at the end of it, she came to me and she said, you supported me through my dream.
Yeah.
And now I want to return the favor. Do you have any dreams? And, my entire life, the answer had been kind of no. Didn't really have anything that I would have called a dream.
Right.
But in that time when she asked me, I actually did. I now had this dream I wanted to do. And so I said yeah. So the timing worked out that we kind of got to trade off. Like who was the support and who was the dreamer.
Wow. Yeah.
And now we kind of got to flip flop, and now she's working and I'm getting to kind of live my dream.
Yeah.
So it's worked
You're
out
both
good.
living your dream.
We're both living the dream.
Yeah, I love that. Shout out to her as well.
Yeah.
That I believe is also important, not just to have a community of friends that support you, but also one of the most important people is the one that's right next to you. It's in the same facility, the same four walls. Somebody you talk to every day.
Oh, yeah.
If they got you,
Yeah, which is a similar story. I know that Corey and I both share that.
Absolutely.
A partner that is going to support you all the way there, and be involved. Whether it's being involved in the actual project or just be involved with you and seeing you through, making sure that you're whole as you're going through this thing, while you're doing something as an entrepreneur or artist where you hit that jumping off the porch or
Right.
jumping off spot in your life. There's nothing like that. That's amazing.
I couldn't do without her. Not
Yeah.
just because
Absolutely.
she's paying the bills, but also just because she's my biggest fan.
Right.
I know that's
Like
right.
I come to her with a story idea, and if you can kind of see it in their eyes. Like when you pitch something to them, and they go like, "Hey, yeah."
Yeah.
That's the
Like
one.
that's when I know like I've got something. And if
Right.
she kind of goes like, then I'm like, okay, scrap it. Like,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah,
tell-
you need someone honest that's going to
Yeah.
tell you no. Like if they're just if you got people around you that are just saying yes constantly, the value of that isn't that great. But
Yeah.
if you got someone that's going to be like this one's good, no, not good, then you're like, oh, okay, that definitely brings up the value for
Can
sure.
we take a moment to just say shout out to the ladies, man? Shout out to the ladies, man. Without y'all, these dreams are just thoughts. You know what I mean? And really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't put that out there.
Yeah.
So you guys, hopefully you guys will watch this, because a lot of times they just want to get us out of their face.
Yeah.
As well too. So sometimes support looks like that. Sometimes it just looks like, just go. I got you. We're good here. Just go. Do what you do. That's what my wife does.
And it goes both ways.
Yeah, and I love it to death.
Right here with the three of us, it's a gender thing, but in general, it doesn't have to be. So, any partner that is willing to go through that and kind of help the other one out, I think that's what partnership is. And
like I said, I was in that role.
Yeah, right.
And and I loved it. I loved being able to support my spouse during her dream.
Right.
And so it's weird having flip flopped, because I was so used to being the support. Go live your dream, and now that I'm kind of out on the ledge doing the thing, it feels a little scary.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't put myself out there in that kind of way before. This has kind of been a journey. Releasing art and having people, taking it in is a scary
absolutely.
thing.
You're vulnerable.
Yeah.
You're vulnerable. And I know by doing art is a lot of times how I discover a lot of things about myself.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the things you discovered, in this journey that you will take with you forever?
I learned some negative, some positive things. Some of the negative things I learned is that I had more anxieties than I thought I ever knew, because suddenly being in this vulnerable space, it's like, oh, people haven't responded yet. Like I sent the book out and they haven't. I sent the book to my best friend and they haven't said back, hey, thanks for sending the book. I loved it. And I'm like, oh no. Do they hate it? They must hate it. Turns out they were on vacation and hadn't seen it yet. So there's that kind of like, I didn't know this was in me. And that's something I'm going to have to work on, because I'm going to be doing more books, and like I can't have this. I can't have this.
Well, actually,
anxiety.
it's good. It's actually good. It's the butterflies before you go on stage. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it never goes away. So I think understanding what it is and understanding how to digest it, and letting it be an indicator. I think that's more important than just
as
trying
long
to
as
say
it's within a reason. Like you don't want to call your friend in a fury, like and what are you doing, and ruin a relationship. There's got to be a control level, right?
Yeah.
And like I'm going to send this out, and I'm really excited to see what happens next. But like, so how have you been able to kind of tone that down? Or if you have.
I wish I could say
you're still working on it.
I wish I could say, oh, I developed some sort of inner peace mantra.
Yeah. You're still.
We're gonna wait for the second book to ask that question. We're gonna wait for the second book.
I'm 15 years into entrepreneurship, so there was definitely times where even just sending out a quote or giving someone their shirts, and then all these things going on in your head.
Yeah.
But if you keep yourself busy doing the next thing, that's where you have to let go, because otherwise it's just going to fill your head space with things that are blocking you from the next portion of whatever it is you're working on.
It doesn't go away. You find better ways to deal with it.
Right,
That's what we're trying to say. It does not go away.
And the solution for me was a very lucky one, where I started getting the reviews. The reviews started coming on Amazon. They were very favorable. For a while, I was like the #1 new release on Amazon in the sibling books category. And so like that was very validating. I'm like, okay, but I also have a sense of like, all right, but that didn't solve the issue. Mm-hmm. I need to be okay with a book that goes out and it's a 3-star book and people are okay with it, and it's the pride that I have in the art I created. I feel like that should be enough. But I see what you're saying, like there's a natural instinct that it's hard to override. That you do want people to like your art. That's why we're doing this, is you want to share what we have with others, and you want them to react to it and respond positively to it. But I wish I could get to a space where I don't need that quite so much.
Right, because that's kind of the place that I'd like to reside in. Is right what you just said. When I'm creating, I just want to create, and the world takes it for whatever the world takes it as.
Right.
And it's a better process for me, but it's taken some time to, like, I'm still working on that. I'm bringing a lot of, I don't know. It's different when I'm doing something that's visual. My pieces are like a journal to me, so they need to be personal, and they need to really reflect the idea of where it's coming from, or the feeling. Where it comes to creative writing, that's, you have somebody that's reading it that you want to almost not manipulate, but you want their mind to be able to I don't know how that interaction goes, but I just know it's more so you want them to be able to think. You have to control their mind a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. You want them to think what you're.
Yeah.
When you're writing something down, you have in your mind what's happening,
right?
And you want them to picture that on the other side. You're playing a game of telephone, where you want them to see it.
I like that.
And some authors have how much I want your vision to match exactly what I have. I might be more descriptive if it's really important to me that you see exactly what I see. But other authors might leave more space for you to imagine your own version of this room or the dress or whatever. So different authors have different perspectives, but you're definitely trying to shape another person's brain thoughts to be what you want them to be.
I like the way you put that. Brain thoughts.
Brain thoughts.
Brain thoughts.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. So, as you went through with this process and you start to get more into it, what made you want to do a children's book? You said, I know we kind of talked about, you started somewhere and you kind of wanted to dial it down, but there's plenty of different ways to approach this.
Yeah.
So what made you, pick this idea?
Yeah. So this idea came to me because I had taken my dog on this walk, and as she was going along this walk, my dog was really wanting to befriend everyone. Sees another dog, wants to go say hi to the dog, wants to go say hi to the cat. Yeah, there's the dog in the front. The black and white dog's name is River. And so she wants to befriend everyone. But this particular day, no one was into it. And so...
that just made me say, "Ah."
Yeah,
that would hit me already.
So I got home and I was like, this was a really funny walk where she tried to be friends with the mailman, the squirrel. No one wants to be her friends. And so I typed it up and I wrote it as a picture book story. And I sent it to my wife and said, this was my day. Mm-hmm. And she responded back and like, that wasn't bad. That was actually a pretty decent story. You should kind of work on that. And I hadn't given any kind of thought to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then I was like, oh, maybe there's something here. And I started playing with it.
Okay.
And the story kind of grew from there. But it didn't really kind of click until I was working with the editor that was edited the book. Same editor as The Hunger Games, which was kind of a fun.
What?
Yeah. She lives here in Pittsburgh. And
Are you serious?
She's fabulous. And so, she kept suggesting that we end the book with, like, ritual blood sport. I'm like, no, I don't
No, you can't.
That's not my story.
Come on, man. It's not my story.
But so
it worked before. It'll work again.
That was hilarious. You got jokes.
So my first version of the story was just my dog's going on this hunt for a friend, and then the end of the story is mom and dad bring home a sister, and that's the friend she needed. And it was a cute story, but it wasn't quite working. And then working with the editor, she said, why don't you take the sister arriving, move it to the beginning, and now have the sister be rejected. Mom and dad brought home a new sibling. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be fun. But wait, the reality sets in. I have to share time. I have to share attention. I have to share my toys. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. I'm going to find a new friend. And she goes on the friend search. But then in the end, she accepts the sister as the friend. So it's more potent if she rejects the sister first and then accepts her at the end.
Right.
And once I made that change, there was this thing that happened where the story clicked. And not only did it become the story of my dogs, but it actually became weirdly my story. I didn't realize that, I grew up, I had two younger siblings, right. And, one of them was a bit challenging, had some medical issues as a kid, and it took a lot of my parents' attention. I didn't realize until I was kind of working on this book, now I'm 36 years old, as I'm working on that, I'm working through some of these issues in my childhood. I'm like, that was me. I was feeling like a little resentful that I had to share time and attention now. And so weirdly, by writing this book about my dogs, I was kind of processing something in a way that only kind of art can help you process that I didn't even realize.
That's absolutely beautiful. So the guy I was talking about earlier, the editor, right?
Yeah.
He said sometimes we edit with instinct, but not understanding that it comes from, it's something that you won't realize until you're done, and then you have to go back and analyze it.
Yeah.
And he says it happens all the time. We use what we experience and to create. It's not coming from nowhere. It's coming from something. And you may not understand it at the moment, but there's a reason why it feels right. That was absolutely it right there.
Yeah.
Like that's phenomenal.
It changed everything, because it went from being a cute story to being my story. It became like a personal story about my childhood in a way that I never intended it to be. But that subtle change suddenly made it not just my dog's story, but my story. And I think that's just, that to me has been the most fun moment of this entire process. I mean, holding the book in my hands was fun, and seeing the kids read the book is all fun. But to me, the most rewarding moment of this entire process was that moment where I made that change in the draft, and suddenly the story clicked, and I went, that was it. That was it the whole time. That was always this story. I just didn't realize it until now.
So how many drafts did you complete? How many drafts did this go through?
You know, if I look through my
Okay.
my folder, there's a lot of final. You know?
The final for final.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yeah, I got
Print ready version 2.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Probably about 5. There was some rough, about 3 drafts. Then I hired the editor, worked with the editor, and then there's some interesting editing that happened once I got the illustrator. Because once you start to see the pictures, you realize what words you can take away. Because you had words there, but then you see the picture and you're like,
I see that.
I don't need those words.
Yeah.
And I actually cut out about 150 words just because I could now see the pictures and they didn't need to be there anymore. So that was kind of a fun editing pass as well. I'm chopping words out of this thing. Let's make those pictures bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, so probably about 6 drafts by the time I was all done.
Okay, so I think that's really cool. And I was just about to ask you, bringing the editor in, what changes happen, and I think that right there is actually a big one. But when it does come down to that, also, the aesthetic of the book as well. And before I guess we go on to that, Josh, you had a few things on that.
Where did you connect with the editor and the illustrator? Like is there something where were those personal connections you already had, or was that something? Is there a platform out there somewhere where there's people that are coming together?
Yeah, so when authors ask me, I always recommend the website Reedsy, Reedsy. It's a platform where you can hire editors and illustrators, but they've all been vetted. They've all had some amount of vetting done to make sure that you're not getting scammed. Because so many times you'll go on Fiverr and you'll hire an illustrator, but then you'll end up getting scammed or taken for your money. So it's nice having this kind of assurance that they're going to do good work. And you can see the reviews that they got and all that. So that's how I found the editor. Okay. I found the illustrator through Instagram. There's a lot of hashtags you can follow for artists that are posting their portfolios.
Gotcha.
I found her that way. She did really cute dogs of her own dogs. She would draw dogs, basset hounds, I think, are her dogs. Gotcha. And I liked the personality she had in them. Yeah. And so I'm like, that's what I need. I need a story where the dogs have emotions because they're carrying.
You can see it in their eyes.
Oh yeah,
they're looking at each other. One's looking up, one's looking down. I'm looking at the back of the book, but
it's really well curated.
Yeah.
It's really well curated. Looking at it now and also hearing the backstory, you can tell the thought that is put into it. It's not really obvious until you have the backstory as well, but it just feels right. So, I really thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, there's a lot of thought that went into just subtle things. Like on the front cover, it's a unhappy dog. The older sister is unhappy as she's kind of meeting the younger sister. Younger sister's excited,
but not too unhappy.
Exactly, and that's exactly it. We had a lot of conversations about exactly how unhappy she should be.
Yeah,
if you make her feel that. If you make her angry, no one wants a book about an angry dog. Yeah. If you make her too happy, then it's not telling what the story's going to be about. So there's
a little bit of drama.
Exactly. Yeah. So we actually dialed this in very specifically. We had a bunch of different versions of this face until we figured out the one that was exactly the right amount of I'm annoyed at you, but I'm not angry. And
absolutely.
So that's the level of thought that went into
you
it.
Steve Jobs this thing, my guy. This is because even the eyes, right? Like it makes sense, and even that look, like I don't know for sure, but I'm kind of like I can feel it, and it's so wild. You don't think that deeply how things, how a product, something like that can really influence your decision to pick it up or not.
But the people that don't know that behind it still
get that.
They don't know why, but then they rate it 5 stars, or they, it stays on the top of the list for a few weeks. And that shows through in that hard work that you put in the background, but it doesn't need to be known off just from the everyday reader doesn't need to know why they like it. They just need to like it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But so the likability of things or sellability, I think is a huge thing that as an artist, a lot of people don't put enough effort into, and then they're like, well, why doesn't someone like my art? And if you don't take the time to understand, like, you don't want to just make art for everyone, obviously, that's fine. Like if you kind of have your niche, but if you want it to be something where people are gonna, it's gonna have a little bit more of a, resounding likability than, even if it's for a narrow audience like children's books. You have to have some thought behind it where people are gonna like it and not really, maybe they don't even know why.
Yeah. As I was writing this, you can tell the type A personality coming out for sure. But I really wanted it to be a book that would work for teaching literacy. And so I kind of dove into reading research papers on what makes childhood literacy books work. Like what makes a book one that helps kids stay engaged. And so I learned a lot of tricks about how to make your page turns a moment, like I said, where on one page it's what's going to happen, and then you can pause and ask your kid, what do you think is going to happen? It's a moment for you as the parent to get involved in the reading and say, hey, what do you think? And then let's find out. And you turn the page. So I embedded a bunch of those moments. I put a lot of thought like that into it. And one of my favorite reviews so far has been a actual literacy specialist got their hands on the book, and they were geeking out over it. They're going, I see what he did here. I see what he did on this page. And
That's
I'm glad.
Beautiful.
So like you said, most people aren't going to see it, but every once in a while when you come across someone that knows that material, you know.
Yeah.
So that was fun to hey,
you caught that.
You saw it, yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. That makes me smile, man. That makes me smile. It really does. It's like, those small things are so big. I can tell there's nothing in there that's not done without thought.
Yeah.
And the love and the passion that's put into that. All of that comes forward. And I really am excited to see where this goes as well, because I just feel like just the story of it, the where it's coming from, your creativity, this being your first book, I have so many more questions.
So does this story continue, or are the next stories going to be a different subject?
Yeah, so I want to keep this story going because I think that a lot of the characters that are in here are working really well. People are responding really well to them. This is more of the older sibling story. It's about how the younger sibling arrives and you think they're going to be your friend, but she actually says, you're not a friend, you're a monster. She starts to view her sister as a monster. And actually in the story, there's a monster version of her sister. It's got weird tentacles and things. It's fun. It's like a Monsters, Inc. type monster. And so it's really the older sibling wrestling with that. But now the next one I want to tell is from the younger sibling's perspective. Because one of the things I've heard from the kids that have read it, they're like, the older siblings are loving it. They're like, this is my story. Okay. The younger siblings are going, this isn't my story. I don't feel like I'm the monster in your story. And so I want to write a story from the younger sibling's perspective that is, what is it like to be the younger sibling and live in the shadow of an older sibling, or have to share the toys. You're getting secondhand toys and stuff from the older sibling and kind of living in that space. So that's the next one is going to be really focusing from the younger sibling and in that one, the older sibling will be the monster. Okay. And so in each book, the other sibling was a monster, and you had to then learn to appreciate them in a way that you hadn't before.
That's interesting.
And it ends in some sort of conclusion, understanding, and growth.
Exactly.
The character grew.
And this one ends with she thinks her sister is a monster, but then kind of realizes there's this complicated thing where you can be a friend and a monster. And it's this idea of love but not always like. And to me that was a really powerful family type lesson that's true for so many of us. A lot of times you love your family, but it doesn't mean you always get along. It doesn't mean at the end of a long road trip you're not at each other's throats.
Right.
And so it's that idea of sit in that kind of conflict of I love you, but I'm also not always going to like you, and that's okay.
That is, man, that's remarkable. So let me ask you a question. This thoughtful discussion, right, with Josh Snyder as well as the co-host Corey Ochai. I'm here with you guys. I'm working on a script with a friend of mine's who wants to create a short film. And wanted to ask you, what do you think? Because I know you've done a lot of research. Where do you think it's best to go to get the best understanding of what a story actually is, right? Because I'm coming in, I wasn't great in English. I wasn't even a big reader until I was about 27. Really didn't read my first book until then. But I want to get a better understanding of what a story entails. You
Yeah.
know, like I know there's a few things, you know, having a problem, you know, having a protagonist and all those type of things. But, you know, what do you think a good story holds or every good story has in common?
I view story as setting up a context that will then change so that you can have an emotional reaction to that change. And so a lot of times you've got the opening scene of a movie and they set up, what is your status quo? What is your life like right now? Are you happy with it? Would you like it to change? You know, and then in Lord of the Rings, and you're hanging out and you're having a birthday party. It's a great time, but then something's going to change, and it's going to either be an opportunity or it's going to be a threat because you're either happy or not. So what is changing in your life, and then how are you going to respond to it? And that's this kind of the story is over and over again. Establish what is their context right now. How are they feeling?
Okay.
Because then you're going to change it, and they're going to react to that change.
All right.
And so, because you can't have emotional response if you don't know where we're currently at. You need context. You need a situation. You need to know what is that person's dreams. What is it they want? Because then when I take it away from them, or when I give them an opportunity to get it, now we can all share that emotional reaction with the character because we know what this means to them.
And you can play with that so much. Like you have stories that start at the end, and then you have either snapshots or then the ending is where you gain that realistic perspective of what their life was like, and so it obviously plays some tricks on you, and you're like, oh, so that's what they were talking about, and then that makes you want to watch it again, Fight Club or something like that, where like it's going to play with your mind, or Quentin Tarantino's one.
I love it. That's he's one of my favorites,
Yeah.
and I know it's just always an emotional roller coaster. I feel every emotion. It's like Forrest Gump is really one of my favorite movies of all time because of that.
And that's a wave.
Right,
I mean, Forrest Gump is taking you on a wave of that every 2 minutes. It's like, here's where I'm at, here's what's changing, here's where I'm at, and then it just keeps going. Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see in a story someone just they're bawling, they're wailing, like they are so upset, they're crying, but you're not feeling anything. Right? I'm watching someone be devastated, but I feel nothing. And so you're showing me them being sad, but you didn't give me the context leading up to it, so that as I start to see the events happening, I'm already a step ahead, going like, oh no, their dream was to go to college, and suddenly they're not going to be able to do that. And I see it happening, and as it's happening, now when the emotional moment hits and they get told your dream won't happen, I'm ready to be sad with them. But if you just show me them being sad, you didn't set it up by showing what they want and why this matters, then you just sit there and you go, I mean, I guess that's good acting, but I'm not feeling it.
I understand. You were all the way in it. So I know.
Same with being excited. You have to give a reason why to be excited
Yeah.
about something, and then and follow that story along and portray it.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to.
Oh
cut you
no,
off.
no, because you're right.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's but like I know, when I started editing video, I can never go back to watching a show the same way or watching a movie the same way, because now I'm looking for how do they create the emotion through the edits and so forth. So now that you're an author, now that you are, you're all the way in it. As I can see, you're all the way in it. How did that change the way that you read now, or change the way that you, understand stories, or just listen or read them?
It definitely changes because now you see. Imagine it's kind of being like a magician, where you now know some of the tricks, and so you see what they're doing. So as the story's playing out, I'll be like, he's the murderer, but they're redirecting to that person to kind of. So as I'm sitting there, I'm predicting things,
right?
And my wife, bless her heart, is like putting up with me.
Okay, right. I got you.
This person's gonna die in the next scene because you can kind of sense how the shape of the story. Once you kind of have a sense of why they're doing what they're doing, you can start to see there's only so many paths that they can take from where they currently are, and this is the most likely. This would be the most subversive. This would be kind of a bad choice. I hope they don't make that one. Yeah. And so out of those options, you can kind of start to guess what's happening.
Now, can you combat that? Can you combat that thought and actually be present? Are you working on that? Because that's what I'm working on now.
Yeah.
Is trying to be more present when I'm watching these, to really kind of view it from the average person's position. Yeah.
I don't know if I found a way to shut it off.
Shame on you.
But
No, I'm just messing with you.
but it means I have so much more. I'm so much more excited when someone shocks me.
Yeah.
Like
I was good at
like the movie
Love
Everything
that.
Everywhere All at Once. That movie came out of left field. I did not see anything happening in that movie, and so that was a really fun experience for me. So anytime that a news story comes along that I can't predict anything, or that I think I'm positive this is going to happen, and then it doesn't, I love those moments now even more because they did something I couldn't expect, I didn't anticipate. And so I guess it's given me more appreciation for just really well-told stories that set you up, and I'm following the setup. I'm like, I see where you're going, and then they tricked me, and I love it.
So okay, so it heightened the meter of satisfaction for you. So when you get there, you actually know what you're like. It's okay. It's actually improved.
Yeah.
Everything. You know, sometimes I feel like it desensitizes some of the joys I used to have, you know, watching a movie or something like that, where now it's like, no, you really have to get me. It really has to be good for me to be like present and not do the thing that you do with, you know, mess it up for your wife, you know, or your better half, your spouse, you know.
Well, it started to rub off on her now because she'll be reading a story and she'll come and she'll enter the room. She'll be mad at me. She's like, I know what's going to happen at the end of my book now because you've taught me.
Yes.
I've learned secondhand from you.
I can hear her voice.
Yeah, she's like, now I know what's going to happen. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, Josh, you got a few things for that too, right, my friend?
Yeah, so I've heard that there's two types of people that when they're watching a movie, and I'd imagine it's the same when you're reading a book, is you know, that your brain kind of, like for me, I'm the immersive type where if once I'm 5 minutes in, like, you know, someone can walk by the screen, I don't even see them. It's very, you know, I don't hear anything, I don't see anything. I'm in it, and which I think when it's like movies and shows, like that's who they're making it for. And then there's another set of people which have their surroundings around them, and then they're watching a thing, and it's almost like an outer body. In my head, I think of what it would be like an outer body where you're watching the thing, but you're also noticing all the other things around you. And not that never happens, but if it gets my attention, I'm in it.
Yeah.
And I'm there, and it's, you know, you're riding along, and you're enjoying the you're being present. So do you know which of those two that you are, just like on a regular basis?
I'm less of the immersive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can be.
That would have been my guess.
And when I am immersive, it's so fun. Like, when a story gets me there, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy would do that. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies when I'm watching those ones.
I'll get sucked. I didn't see the new one yet. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm so bad. I was at the theater.
Come on with it, Josh.
There was the longer commercials before. I cried.
Oh yeah.
I cried. Yeah. It got me. I was like, oh my.
Oh, you should have put that out there to the world. Let's just cut that out.
It's legitimate. No, it's
No.
so like when I'm in it, I'm just like oh yeah, I'm there.
So that's to me. That's when you're enjoying. It's gotten me out of my predicting. Oh, I guess this is what's going to happen. And it's just, this is so good.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sit and enjoy this because it's that good. It can pull me out of that.
I might watch that tonight. I'm serious. It's one of those things, you know. I want to be more immersed into certain things. I don't know. It's a great escape.
Yeah, Corey, which one are you as far as those two subsets of people?
Oh man, I think I'm one of those people that analyze a lot more.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I love when like you said, I love when I'm immersed.
Interesting.
But I'm at the point now where it's, you know, I'm a little picky, man. I'm a little snobby. You know, and I'm breaking it down. Like, does this feel real? I'm asking questions probably instead of like just enjoying it. And sometimes I catch myself. That's why I wanted to ask this question, you know, because sometimes I catch myself and I'm like, hold up, I'm being too analytical. You know, this is supposed to be entertainment as well. Like, I have to understand that not everything's going to be something that I would create. You know, some things are not meant to be real. It's meant to, I don't know. I'm just more of a realist.
I think it's okay to be like that. It's okay to be the person that guesses the ending or has thoughts on how it could have been done. But I think you have to have some humility and just understand that people enjoy art the way they enjoy it. And don't be a snob. If someone enjoys Real Housewives, let them enjoy Real Housewives.
I can't stand behind that. I can't stand behind that. No, not this message.
No, so and that was a step I had to take. Like
Yeah.
in my mind, there's art that is executing really well, and then there's art that isn't matching what I would expect it to do.
Right.
But there's people that are loving it, and I don't want to take that away from them, because if you're enjoying the art, you should get to enjoy it. And someone being a
respect that.
snob, if you love whatever music you love, whatever stories you love, whatever movies you love, just let people enjoy it and stay out of their space, and you have whatever thoughts and you enjoy whatever you love. And
I thoroughly enjoy that. So my next question is, because this is self-published. Your book is self-published.
Yeah.
Did you try to find like a bigger, did you try to find someone else to work with, to collab with a bigger company, or did you? Okay.
There's a Kickstarter.
Yeah, so that's a big choice you have to make when you're publishing a book. Is are you going to go traditional and try to publish like Penguin, Random House, or one of the big groups, or are you going to self-publish? And it's a big fork. I chose to self-publish specifically because when you go through a traditional publishing company for a picture book, you don't get to choose the illustrator. You have no say in how the book is illustrated. And to me, I had such a
big part of the story.
It's such a big part of the story. But you give them the words, and they come back 9 months later with your book, and they go, "This is it." And you better hope you're happy with it, because that's what it is.
Right.
And to me, I had such a strong vision in my head of what this needed to look like that I wasn't willing to turn that over to someone else. And then also the timeline of production is a lot longer, because they're not only producing the book, they have to fit it into their release window, which might be 2 years from now.
Okay.
And so because this is about my real life dogs, I really wanted it to come out while my dogs could go to events with me. So I can take my dogs to a school visit, and the kids can meet the dog. It's a fun thing.
So did you know that going into this, that like all those things that you just said about the two differences?
It was definitely a lot of learning, because I think you just assume you write the book and then it gets published. Right? How that happens is a bit nebulous to you. So I had to learn that process. And it's definitely a riskier venture to self-publish, because you have to fund everything. If you go traditional publishing, they pay for it. They make it, they pay for the illustrator, and they pay you money.
Right.
Whereas now, I had to hire the editor, I had to hire the illustrator, I had to pay to have the books printed. I did run a Kickstarter to help fund some of the printing costs. But this was a big kind of financial gamble. But I liked having the amount of control, because I was saying, I'm micromanaging the face expression of that dog on that cover, because in my mind it has to be this specific thing to tell the story I'm trying to tell. And I can't do that if I don't have that kind of control.
And all those hours, that's not, I mean, the artist is getting paid for that work.
Exactly,
so like you have to really consider, is this that important? Do I want 9 edits to this face, or is it good where it's at? I don't want to spend another,
that's interesting.
But if it is that important to you, then you do it, and that's a good, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would have done differently?
The recommendation I now give to authors, because so much of when you're an author, you're on Twitter, you're in all these spaces, and you're getting a lot of avalanche of feedback of how you should do this. This is how you succeed. And one of the things that they always tell authors is you got to develop social media platforms. You gotta be active on Twitter. You gotta be active on Instagram and all these things. And so I did. I built an Instagram platform. I had some videos go viral. I got to 5,000 followers, which is a decent number of followers.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I'm not good on Twitter. I don't get it.
And it was taking up a lot of my time. I was trying to post weekly. I was trying to engage in all the spaces. And then the book came out, and I'm posting about it on Instagram. I can't point to a single sale that came from those 5,000 followers, because people are not really in a consuming mode when they're on social media. They're actually in a promotion mode. They're trying to get you to follow them. They're not actually looking to buy things. And so I now tell people, don't spend the time on social media if it's not natural to you. If you love social media and it's just a space you hang out anyways, use it to your advantage, go. But if you're forcing yourself into that space because you think you're supposed to, you're better off just writing more books, getting better at writing, having more books in the marketplace. Don't waste this time with social media, because it's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of time, and I don't think it pays off.
If it doesn't ROI, then it doesn't make any sense.
And it does pay off if you are good in those spaces. There are people that are just naturally good at social media.
So for my story, when I started this business pghprintship.com. Check us out.
Ship, not shop.
Ship, yes. Although I bought the shop.com just so that it would redirect, but the emails don't work, so don't do that. People come in and be like, I emailed you, and I'm like, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
So I used Instagram as a tool to grow my business, and it was because I was doing printing and I was able to take pictures of the work that I was doing and kind of create that content, and it was a very easy space. They had location, it's a two-way social media like Twitter and TikTok, where Facebook is more just one, like as a business you can put stuff out but you can't interact with your the people that are following you. So Instagram you can, and so you have those two ways. But with I poured a lot of effort into it, but I was getting I did get a lot out of it. So the first year 70% of our sales accounted for $20,000 came from Instagram, and then everything else was repeat or referral after that. And then that number from Instagram ended up, that goes down lower and lower the bigger that we got. So now I don't think it's as important, and I'm trying to post more, just more quality and less quantity, and just do one post even a month or a couple a month, but have them be something that's like a real chunk of what we're doing and the customer that we're working with and how we've done different things for them. So yeah. So, but if it works for you, you can make it work. If it doesn't work for you and that's not your thing, like you're saying, then focus on what you do well.
So any writers out there who are feeling that pressure and stress, I got to get followers, I absolve you. You don't have to do that.
There's no rules.
I've now sold, I'm up to like 500 copies or something of this book, and
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'm doing that without social media, and so you don't need it. And if you're feeling this burden and weight, and it's keeping you from doing what you love, which is writing, then you have my permission to not let it go.
Yeah, I love that.
How are you promoting? Like, what are the routes that you were taking to get to that 500?
Yeah,
stuff like this.
Absolutely.
Great podcast. Have a chance to be on. Doing events. Doing the Bryant Street Festival this upcoming weekend. I don't know when this releases, but as of recording. So doing some personal events. I'm blessed with very loving family who have been promoting my book. My dad has just been taking my book wherever he goes. He sold 2 at the doctor's office. He sold 3 at the bar.
Go ahead, Pops.
He tried to sell one at the the United Air check-in. Here's my plane ticket. Would you like a book? So he's just taking it around. It's been great. My mom sold books too. So and then a lot of word of mouth. I as part of the Kickstarter, I gave people the option to buy a book to be donated. And then I was matching the donations with a donation book of my own. And so all totaled, we ended up with almost 200 donated books out in the world, going to classrooms and to kids in low-income communities that a lot of them, this might be the first new book they've ever gotten to have be their own. Or a classroom where a teacher is buying all the books themselves for their classroom, and now they've got this new book. And so by putting the book into spaces like that, you get word of mouth by people that share the book with others. So
that's impactful.
Yeah,
that is. There's a few different companies I know that have also, or a few different companies that I know also started up that way. More of a social awareness. And I think that approach is buy a book, donate a book as well. I think that's really cool, man, because it really gives an opportunity to give to those that may not have, and I think, I don't know, I think more things should be like that. I was thinking about, I got a chance to talk, my father's in Nigeria, and just in Africa in general, and a lot of Africa doesn't look like what they portray on, TV, but there is a lot of Africa that is like that. And, he was asking me, if you have any, clothes or anything like that you want to send over, you have some cousins in a nearby country that really doesn't have anything and it would make their world, just to know that they have something that came from America, you know what I mean? So just things like that, a brand new book, You know, that kid will rock that just like some brand new Jordans out
yeah.
here, and it's a sense of confidence. It's a sense of they will appreciate it, just like somebody from Alaska going to California and it's sunny. You know what I mean? They'll
Right.
appreciate it like that. Like it's like, man, I wish we had these more, this more, and it can change. It could change your life, man. One of those little things can make so big of a difference. You know?
Yeah, one of my favorite stories I got was a teacher contacted me and said, "Hey, thank you for the book. I actually had to hide it because the kids were fighting over who got to hold it. During recess, all of them wanted to hold the book, and so she said just to keep them all from fighting, I had to put the book away, and we have special reading times for it now.
Yeah.
But every kid just kind of wanted to hug the book
That's
for a bit.
the greatest. That's the greatest child fighting story I ever heard. They're fighting for a book. Like now that's a great story.
And then for it to be your book.
I one of my greatest moments with my family was when I first started reading, and like on a consistent basis. One day I come into the house and both of my children have books in their hand. My wife has a book in her hand, and I'm walking in with a book, and I sit down and we're reading together.
Yep.
And I never in a million years would have thought that would be like one of my best memories so far in life. But to me, it was one of those things was like, oh, we're going to be all right. You know what I mean? It was just, we all
How
were
old
just
were the girls at that time?
Oh, man, they were, my youngest probably couldn't even, she was looking at picture books and she was just understanding what a dog is, a cat is. So she had to be maybe 4.
Yeah.
My oldest might have been 6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and
just hanging out.
Just hanging out, man. I came in, and this is like the year I started like actually reading. So this was not too long ago, but it was just that right there changed everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, it changed everything. You know, and it was all around books, man. It was books. You know, we still go to my house. It's nothing but, you know, we still have 15 minutes of reading. We try to do on a consistent basis, but my girls don't go like, oh, we got to do 15 minutes. They be like, okay. You know what I mean? Because it's just so natural. Like, I didn't have that growing up, and it just makes the world to me. So I can't wait to take this home.
Yeah, I hope they enjoy it.
And my daughter, this can be her book when we do our 15 minutes. So this is going to be really interesting. And they're also being sisters, you know what I mean? And we're thinking about maybe having another one, you know? So it'd be cool to kind of, you know, like new friends and everything. I just think there's a lot of value in that book right there. So I think it's gonna be cool.
Yeah,
I think it'll be cool. A good learning experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's this idea that started coming around like about a decade ago that people really pushed as far as marketing and sales go, which is the subscription model. Like, oh, well, if you can get and more. Like, as a small business, obviously, people have been subscribing to a telephone line and cable and a newspaper for a long time. But as far as, like, small business using that as a selling point and, providing continuous a service, that was, like, a big hot thing. And it still is. But I have a friend that's working on an app where he helps with, different mental struggles, and it is like a subscription based, and there is a portion to that. But I was talking to him about it, like there's this concept that I'd never seen used before, which is like to go above and beyond and do a scholarship, because a lot of people that are dealing with this, they might not have the resources to be able to download this app and pay $18 a month, but then there's going to be people that could pay for 2 or 3. And so to have all those options when someone signs up so that they could pay for theirs or they could pay for theirs and someone else's. And just that idea, or it could be, a monthly thing, or it could be a, like what you did where you're going to give one away. And the fact that you match that, I think that was super cool. But that model, I haven't really seen it. And that idea, I've pushed it out to a couple other people as well, but to see that you did that, I'm very impressed, and I'd like to see that more, because there are people that might want to give, but they're not just going to give. Like, there are people that do giving, and they're philanthropists, or even, on a small scale, they'll give $50 or $100 here and there, but the people that don't, I think there's a huge portion of people that don't just generally give, other than, Salvation Army. They might have a bucket when you're walking in a store or whatever, but to do that. So how did that come to mind, and how did that develop into that idea? Because we were right on the same track there.
Yeah, I really wanted. One of the things I value is I like to find ways in whatever space I'm in to bring kind of love and kindness and helpfulness to that space.
Yeah.
And I try to figure out what that looks like in this space. And it's like, well, like you said, there's people that a book can change their life. Having a good book, having a new book, a story that speaks to you can really be an important thing. And so what does that look like? And I thought, well, donating books to people that don't necessarily have a chance to get those books would be a really cool thing to do. But I didn't know kind of how people would respond if I pitched it.
Right.
Like, I know people would want to buy a book for themselves, but would you like to buy a second book for another person that you've never met? And I didn't know how that would fly, but I was overwhelmed by the response to it.
Yeah.
And
you get both options. You can
yeah.
choose not to do it. It's not you're not shamed for it.
And I gave the option, you can buy a book and donate. I had a bunch of it's Kickstarter, so there's a whole menu of options.
Yeah.
And I included some, kind of ones that were I never thought would happen. Like, buy 2 books for yourself, donate 25.
Okay.
Like, no one's gonna do that, right?
Yeah.
Someone did.
What?
Someone paid to donate 25 books to these low income.
And they hadn't even read it yet.
Shout out to that
was,
person right there.
And same with
that's amazing. And all of them, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And same with the buy 2, donate 10. Like, these options that I thought were never going to happen, but you might as well include them, were happening. And I was just blown away by the generosity of people. Like you said, they haven't even read the book. They're just trusting that my story that I'm telling is going to be something that they want to share. And so, we just kept getting more and more of these donated books, and I started stacking them up on my table, matching them. This is a huge stack of books. This is many hundreds of pounds of books. And it was the coolest part of the whole Kickstarter kind of release process, was just seeing this generosity unfold, and just knowing that it's going to mean so much to the kids that receive them.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
I love that.
So I wanted to just before we wrap it up, I wanted to talk about, this may be where it's starting at, but where do you see this going? What is the next books that you want to work on? Are they children's books? Are they more of the graphic novels that you were working on before? Where do you see this going?
Yeah, I definitely have more of picture books in the works, more of the dog series. My wife works with in the neonatal intensive care unit, which is where the premature babies go when they're born. Yeah. I really want to write a story for parents going through that. So I'm working on a story for that space that just kind of helps empower those parents. The book is called "This Was Not the Plan," and this isn't how you planned on this new child arrival coming. And you had all the bedspread picked out, you had the paint of the room, you had all these things that you had planned that this would be like, but it's not like that. But here are some new ways you can be empowered and take control and be involved in this new situation. You can choose blankets for your baby. You can still decorate the hospital room. You can, how to be empowered in that new situation. So I'm looking forward to working on that one with my wife, and hopefully get that into some hospitals.
I love the fact you're bringing her into this as well. I think that had a lot of value to the world.
So I think between those two, I want to write books that can help people through some of these emotional situations that are also fun. This is a book about challenges of a new sibling, but it's also fun. Because I don't want to just write an important book. I want to write a book that's fun.
Absolutely. I mean, that's also, that was something also the editor said that I was talking about earlier. You got to remember, this is entertainment. As well. We're entertaining as well. You want the experience should be pleasurable somehow, some way. It shouldn't just be, even if you create something that wants to draw a drama from somebody, that's still an experience that is pleasurable because you're getting it from that. It's an experience. So that I truly enjoy your approach on being an author and bringing these things into the world. That's absolutely amazing. Now, there's a question that we asked everyone that sits in this seat. And the question is, if you were sitting across from the person that was just starting this journey, yourself, you're talking to yourself when you were just starting this journey, what would you say to yourself?
I would tell them to find people that have your level of passion and intent, and surround yourself with them.
I agree with
And
that 100%.
Don't look for people that are.
I spent years going down that wrong path on that.
And don't try to find the people that are ahead of you on the ladder, because there's always going to be this idea of like, well, if I could just get a moment of that famous person's time.
Right.
No, find people that are your skill level at where you are, and then commit to growing together and just feeding off each other's passion. You're all going to be learning, and you're swapping information, and you're all growing together because you're all hungry, and you're all passionate, and you're all sharing everything you learn, and build yourself up a community, and that community will rise, and out of that community will come a lot of really talented writers, painters, musicians, because you're all fueling each other. And I think that's the best way to get started, in addition to learn how to do it, take the classes, learn the craft, practice. But in the midst of all that, surround yourself with people that have passion and hunger like you do.
You guys heard that. That might have been my favorite one so far. That was absolutely amazing.
We say this is for our listeners, but Corey and I leave every episode like we learned something, and this is like a space for us to really grow ourselves and watch our community grow as well, and to be a part of that. We appreciate that very much.
Absolutely.
And appreciate, we wouldn't be able to do it without the people listening. So thank you.
Yeah. So, before we get out of here, definitely, where can they find you at? I know social media is not where you're putting all your energy, but I know it's somewhere where they can actually find a way to receive this beautiful book that you've created here.
Yeah, so I have an author
River's
website.
New Friend. Let's put that out there.
River's New Friend. It's available on Amazon, as books kind of have to be these days, but also you can get it through my author website, rothwrites.com. We also have sticker sheets and things like that, as well as activity sheets, or if you want to have a coloring sheet or a maze, even if you don't buy the book, you can get these for free, so your kids can be doing fun activity sheets based on the book. Instagram and TikTok, at River Willow Storytime, if you want to see cute videos of the actual real life dogs that the book is based on.
River has her own TikTok?
They have their own TikTok.
Hello. That's really cool. And is there so all of the avenues are your website, Amazon, your TikTok, Willow's TikTok. Hello. So River's TikTok. I said Willow. River's TikTok. And is there another one that where can they also go to?
Are there any stores locally?
Is there in like the donations? Like where is that option located at?
So that option was tied to the Kickstarter, and now that that's over, I'm working on trying to come up with a new avenue for that, because I want to keep that going. I'll probably add something to my website where you can purchase a donation book through the website. Haven't done it yet, but that's definitely in the plans. I want to keep that energy going.
Gotcha. What's the website?
Rothwrites.com.
Okay.
Writes as in writing, so
ROTH.
Absolutely.
ROTHWRITES.
Yeah, because that's definitely an option. I want to definitely want to purchase that way. I think that would be amazing. And it really excites me to know that I can get a book for my daughter, which you have gifted me with, and I'm still going to go and buy one as well. I just want to say appreciate you, but also being able to maybe send one back over home, over to Africa where my pops is and so forth, one of my nephews and nieces or cousins over there. So I think that'd be cool.
Absolutely.
Man. This has been amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna let you guys know, my name is Corey Ochai. I run and operate, and I'm the founder of the 1028 podcast. If you guys do like what you're listening to, if you want to tell your own story, if you want to do a podcast, you want to do some type of production where it's communication and dialogue, feel free to contact me at the 1028 on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter as well. And if you want to also see some of my art, you can also go on Move78. That's MUVE _78, where you can kind of see how I create as well. So What about you, Josh? How you
Yeah.
feeling over there, man?
Thankful.
I'm grateful as well.
Yeah, it's been good. So I appreciate everyone listening. Thank you both for Corey opening up your space, and Michael for you being here, and thanks for everyone that is tuning in and made it this far. And we hope you listen to another episode. We have more and more of this content, and I know that, and this isn't in a bad way, but Corey kind of takes over a handful of, and everything that's coming out of his mouth is also, I'm saying in my head, like, yeah, like that's exactly where I was going to go with it. Or, we definitely have this chemistry where we're able to feed off each other and have people on and kind of get to know all of ourselves, all of our community better every time we do this. So thank you for being here.
So amazing.
Check out my Instagram is the best way to go there first, and then everything else kind of feeds out of there. So that's Instagram, Josh Snyder 86. That's Snyder with an I, SNIDER 86. So check me out there, and then the business that is it's just my fiance and I, and we own and operate PGH Print Ship.com. So we'd love for you to check that out. We do lots of different types of printing. And then the podcast, you can find us at Thoughtful Discussions, anywhere you listen to podcasts, as well as TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, Facebook. And thank you so much for and I know this is like the fourth or fifth time I'm saying thank you.
But we really appreciate you guys.
Feel free to leave a comment.
Yeah.
Feel free to rate us, how you liked it. If you want to share it, that's the way that this kind of stuff gets out. So if this brought value to you, and you enjoyed listening to this, and you want other people to listen to it, just like someone else giving away this book, this sharing this content, it really helps. And you never know how it might affect the next person that is listening to it. So we appreciate that. We're coming up on the 100th episode.
Getting close, man.
Yeah,
Getting
before
close,
the end
man.
of the year, we'll be there.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to that, and the fact that we have gotten this far. And I was looking back at episodes last night and seeing, there is so much out there that we have been a part of and in this community. So very thankful.
Absolutely. And if you guys like the clips that you're seeing on all the social medias, man, let's give a shout out to Lane Media. Larry, man, you are doing phenomenal out there. We appreciate you, man. And let's keep doing it, man. So this world is a blank canvas, and it's up to each and every one of us to take our paintbrushes and paint and add the paint and create this masterpiece together. So with saying that, we're gonna say go out there, do something beautiful. The world's counting on you, and we're out. All right, guys.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you having me on.
Man, this was amazing.